Today we are in Thetford Forest to photograph some birds.
We've brought our own cameras and we've also got some good zoom lenses.
Now, neither of our cameras are built for wildlife or sporting types photography, so neither of us should have an advantage over the other.
We are going to be shooting different species of birds. In fact, we're going to try and shoot as many species as possible.
Yes, whoever photographs the most different species wins.
We've also got a sporting agreement that if we find something a little less feathery, we might count that as well.
Yeah, why not? Now, we've had to put some rules in place. So when we photograph the birds, the rule is that it has to be the main subject of the image and it does have to be in focus.
Cool, I think that's it.
So we're ready to go.
Ready? Go!
20 minutes later and we'd photographed a grand total of nothing. Evidently this was going to be a lot harder than we'd hoped. So we set off in different directions to try our luck on our own.
In fact, it wasn't long before I found my first subject, but it wasn't a bird. Instead, I managed to get unusually close to a squirrel.
It was a good job we'd agreed not to just photograph birds, as my favourite shot was of a butterfly. And the hornet. There was the hornet as well.
That was not my favourite shot. I too managed to focus surprisingly close on a damselfly, and perhaps cheated a little with this adorable shot of a Highland calf and its mum.
When you're shooting somewhere like this that's so natural, that isn't full of sort of man-made hides with really close-up feeders, I found a lot of the time I'm using the long end of my lens, obviously, because the birds are further away. Today, I haven't really got off a 400mm, so in that sort of situation, obviously image stabilisation is a really good thing to have in your equipment. Now, I'm lucky enough to be using the Sony a7R II and the Sony 100-400G Master. Now both of these have image stabilisation, but it does mean because I've got it in the body, I would be able to use lenses that didn't and still have image stabilisation, which is great. And I find a lot of mirrorless now have this inbuilt, so that if you do put glass on that doesn't have the IS in the lens, you still have a really good amount of image stabilisation, which is obviously nice for video and stills, and particularly useful today when my hands are wobbling about and I'm at 400mm. A lot of people will use APS-C size sensors rather than full frame for birding. Because the sensor's smaller, there's a crop factor, and that means sometimes you'll get 1.5 times the amount of focal length of your lenses. So obviously that's really useful. Now the a7R II isn't exactly a birding camera. It's not particularly quick with autofocus on moving subjects, and it's not got the best burst rate. However, it is 42 megapixels, and that's going to come in quite useful today, I think, because it means I can crop in nice and tight and still retain a really high level of detail in my images.
So I'm shooting with the Nikon D800. Now, this camera was released in 2012 and has since been succeeded by the D810 and the D850, but it's still a really good camera. I enjoy using it for wildlife photography because it's got a really long battery life. In fact, I've only got one spare in my bag and I doubt I'm even going to need to use that today. The other thing is it's really quite robust, you know, it's had a few knocks over the years and it's still going strong. Now, the only slight disadvantage with it is when the shutter closes, it does create quite a loud sound. Now, it does have a quiet shutter mode. It doesn't really make that much difference. It's marginally quieter, but I tend to just leave it on standard shooting mode. When I saw this waterfall, I had an inkling that I might find a wagtail. As I've got closer and had a look, I've actually spotted a pair of grey wagtails, and they're fluttering around catching midges. Now, the good thing about the waterfall, as I've explained earlier, that my D800 is quite loud when I press the shutter. So the waterfall masks that sound, and it also masks the sound of me, which has allowed me to get right up close on the riverbank and take a few snaps.
If you're going to go out and photograph wildlife, then a really good tip is to take some binoculars with you if you have them. I know there's a cuckoo over there somewhere. I keep hearing the call, but the brush is too thick and I just can't spot it. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to spot animals and birds with a lens this long, so having some binoculars with you can really help narrow down where to look.
So I've just photographed a blackbird, but he was really high up in the tree. So obviously I had to zoom all the way in, but sometimes when that happens, you kind of look through the viewfinder and you lose track of your subject. So what I like to do is, instead of just having the one eye open that's looking through the viewfinder, is I'll have both of my eyes open, and then I can both see through my normal vision and the viewfinder at the same time. And it makes it a little bit easier to find the subject, find the focus point, and hopefully get the shot.
It's getting towards the end of the day now, and we've met up by these beautiful lakes where we've got our last images of some birds to add to our tallies. So I think it's time to count up.
Let's see, here's one.
Our very unbiased and independent team counted the images, and it soon became obvious that there was a very clear winner.
So, the results are in. I got 26 different species. How many did you get, Mike?
I can't even remember, but it wasn't 26.
It was not.
I don't think it was
It was
even
exactly
20.
19. Exactly. 19.
But I got the better pictures, obviously.
Well, I'm not going to deny that some of them were really good, actually. But I think we really enjoyed it. Got some really nice pictures, and it was good to get out and do something a little bit different.
Definitely.
It's actually really good if you want to try and push your photographic skill a little bit, to try and go and do some challenges with people. As you were saying earlier, you know, if you've got any friends, or, you know, we do a lot about social media type shooting, you know, so a lot with sort of UK shooters, these feature pages on Instagram, they often have meetups, and people sort of have challenges between each other.
Definitely. I mean, like, photography can be quite a lonely business sometimes, and although that can be really nice, you know, just you and nature, it can be great, but it's also nice to go out with a friend. Actually, we're definitely going to do this again, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to try and come up with some more challenges.
Well, in fact, why don't you come up with some more challenges? You tell us what you want us to have a go at next, and we'll give it a go. And hopefully I'll win next time.
Well, you won't. But yeah, if you do have any ideas, just put them in the comments, and we will take a look through, see if we'll pick some good challenges out.
Awesome.
And I'll beat you again.
I'm going.